Beaverton High School students at large. We're here again this evening to talk about another fun topic of practicing. And now that things are starting to open up and we're able to go out into the world and do whatever it is people do out there in the world. I've been home so long I don't remember. But anyway, when you get out there in the world, I want you to take along some things that will help you as a player when you get back to do that fun and wonderful thing that we all look forward to doing, practicing. Yes, so we are going to be talking about today one of the terms that I have been using in the previous videos but never bothered to define, and that is critical listening. Critical listening sounds pretty simple, kind of self-explanatory, like a flesh-eating viper, but it has some other subtleties to it that I feel it's a good idea to talk about before I go on later and talk about how we can listen when we're not practicing. Critical has a number of different definitions, and the ones that we need to understand for the most part are expressing adverse or disappointing judgment. That's not the critical that we want to look at. We want to think more about the definition of expressing the analysis of something for its merits and its differences. That is what I want you to think about when I mention critical listening. Listen to yourself subjectively for the merits of things that you are doing and try to compound on those to improve. And I want you to think about critical listening in the objective sense of what someone else is doing that can help guide you to know how to play on your instrument a little better. Now, one of the things that I did recently when this whole COVID thing started is I had a college clinic that I was supposed to go and do. But because it wasn't able to happen, I instead did a video Zoom interview thing. One of the questions in that video was, what do you feel were the advantages of having your father be a professional musician? The most important thing for me that my father was a professional trombone player was I knew what the trombone sounded like. I mean, it's that simple. I knew what the trombone sounded like to be played on at a professional level. And more importantly, I knew what the trombone sounded like when it was being practiced to maintain that professional level. It was important because I didn't have to learn to do it. All I did was emulate what my father did, try to follow what he did, and then reverse engineer everything I was doing to figure out what worked and what didn't work. Find people on YouTube, a great resource to be able to look for your instrument and find people who play it at an incredible level. It gives us an opportunity to hear what our instrument can do and an idea of what we can strive for that we're practicing. And something else I would like you to notice about a lot of these people is they might be young, but how old are they? They didn't get that good overnight. It took a long time. I want you to listen critically in an analytical sense to how they're playing on your instrument that can help you understand what you're doing that may sound like them already or what you can do to be able to push your performance level so that you can meet this higher, greater expectation of what our instruments can do. In one of the past videos, I talked about our practice space, and I wanted that space to have a baseline where you could hear yourself and know how you play. Well, once you set that baseline and you know what to expect, you'll have good days, and then you'll have an okay day, and then maybe you'll have a bad day, and then you'll have a good day, and an okay day, and then another good day, and it kind of goes up and down, but you know basically where you're at every time. By listening critically to others play your instrument and analyzing how they play and applying it to your playing, you can bend that baseline so that one day you have a good day, the next day maybe not such a good day, and then you have a good day, and then maybe an okay day and a bad day, and then a good day and another bad day over here. But by the time you get over here, you'll notice your bad day was a good day just a few months ago. And the reason why that is important is because emotionally, a bad day feels like a bad day all the time, no matter the reality, because we live our lives in subjective analysis. Now, when we compare ourselves to others, that is an objective critical listening moment. When we listen to somebody play an incredible concerto that, I wouldn't be able to play for 3 years if I practiced on it, who knows how long he practiced on it or she practiced on it. When you listen to them and we think of ourselves in relation to where they're at, that's objective listening. Now that we have kind of defined the term critical listening, I would like to explain how you can use your critical listening in a passive sense so that you can get better. Our hearing works in a number of different ways, but basically we have passive hearing and active hearing. When we're actively listening, you're listening to my words, you're trying to absorb the information. When we're passively listening, my words might be getting rolled out, but you're focused on doing something else, typing to a friend, playing a video game, whatever it might be. And you might not necessarily be absorbing anything, but your listening is still on, even though it's passive. So if someone were to call your name, you'd wake up out of that focus that you're in, and you would turn on your active listening to listen for what that person has to say. When we get out of this thing, and you're out there in the world, pay attention and be aware. Listen for music. Listen if you can identify your instrument. Let that be the trigger, like your name, that if you hear music and you hear your instrument, you'll wake up out of your focus and see the larger world around you. When we actively listen to music, we're engaging in that objective review. When we're passively listening, we are letting our worlds be a little bit bigger. And that is the thing that I want to share with you. So when you go out, you can listen critically while still being passive, and it'll make your world just that much larger. My buddy and I, we used to go walking down on the boardwalk. We'd meet at the pier. Down on the boardwalk, they have these little stalls, and each little stall sold a different kind of item. So you had the guy listening to rap music, and he'd be selling tennis shoes, and then there was a guy who sold 70s style graphic tees, and he's blowing some kind of classic rock. And then there was the gal who sold trinkets and beads and crystals and things like that, and she's got her sitar music playing. And then maybe there was a bookstore, and he'd have classical music playing. And as we would walk along this boardwalk toward the pier, it was like this score of our lives, a musical score to our existence, to our life as we were walking. And one of the interesting things beyond that was that it was about sunset, and there was a drum circle playing out on the beach of about 35, 40 drummers, and they were all playing drums. So even though the musical styles was changing as we walked, there was still this constant rhythm that kind of tied it all together. And when we sat down to eat, when we got to the pier, it was amazing how, did you hear that guy's music? And he knew what song was playing when we went by what stall. Even though we were engaged in conversation and we had a focus, we were still passively absorbing all of this music as we walked by these shops. And we could actually discuss the music that was playing in the stalls, even though we had a conversation going on at the same time while the drum circle was playing, and we were listening to that too. And that's another important thing about our practice session, about learning style. If you can get your mind to focus on when you hear your instrument being played, it can help you to identify all these different styles of music and hear how your instrument is being used through the rock and roll, through the new age music, through the rap music, and you can hear what's going on with it even though you're not focused on it. You're not listening to it. You're hearing it, but you're still absorbing it. And your world just gets a little bigger. And I hope that when you go out into the world, you'll listen for your instrument and allow yourself to absorb what's going on so that when you go back to practice, you might be able to reflect on what you heard stylistically and emulate it. Know what your instrument sounds like, know what it can do, and then set that as a goal. We can't walk from Portland to New York in a day. We're going to go through a lot of pairs of shoes along the way. And if you get started today, New York will be that much closer. But never get frustrated on the journey. You're going to pass a lot of amazing things on the way. So keep your ears open, enjoy music, be happy, and I'll see you next time.